Hello there, Homeschool Nolan here to help you navigate learning in the digital age. Today I'd like to talk about teaching science and where to start when it comes to putting together the right curriculum for your homeschooler. There's no question that studying and learning science is more important than ever in the digital age. A lot of the important topics we discuss these days requires an understanding of science. Take climate change, for example. Understanding climate change and why it is happening requires scientific knowledge of what happens when we burn fossil fuels that produce heat-trapping gases. Climate change usually leads to the topic of renewable energies, which also touches science. And this past year, we've heard a lot about vaccines and infectious diseases. But understanding what vaccines and mRNA vaccines can and cannot do also requires an understanding of the science of biology. So studying science is important. But where do we start? In other subjects, it's more obvious where to start. For example, when teaching language arts, we usually start by teaching kids the letters of the alphabet. When teaching math, we start by teaching kids how to count and do simple arithmetic. But where do you start when it comes to teaching science? Or more specifically, which science should we start with? Do you start with physics, biology, or do we start with the natural sciences such as geology, ecology, or meteorology? And how are all these sciences related? To help me answer this question, I turn to one of the greatest scientists of the 20th century, Richard Feynman, and his book, 6 Easy Pieces. In this book, he includes a famous lecture he once gave at Caltech called The Relation of Physics to the Other Sciences. In this lecture, he begins by saying that physics is the most fundamental and all-inclusive of the sciences and has had a profound effect on all scientific development. In fact, physics is the present-day equivalent of what used to be called natural philosophy, from which most of our modern sciences arose. Students of many fields find themselves studying physics because of the basic role it plays in all phenomena. So right off the bat, Feynman tells us how physics is fundamental to all the other sciences. And he starts with the science of chemistry, which he says is the science perhaps the most deeply affected by physics. Chemistry is all about the theory of atoms and how they react with one another. And these chemical reactions all follow certain rules. These rules, according to Feynman, can be explained in principle by quantum mechanics, which is a branch of physics. Feynman then talks about biology, which of course is the study of living things. He tells us that living bodies can be viewed as machinery, and if we look closely at all living things, we see many physical phenomena in the machinery, such as the circulation of blood, pumps, pressure, etc. All living things follow an important principle from physics called the conservation of energy. And when we break living bodies down even further to the cellular and molecular level and begin to study DNA and RNA, we realize, according to Feynman, that all living things are made of atoms, and that everything that living things do can be understood in the terms of jigglings and wigglings of atoms. Now, on the opposite end of tiny cells and atoms in biology are the stars, moons, and planets, and the science of astronomy. Now, astronomy is a great way to get kids interested in science. What kid hasn't looked up at the stars with wonder? Astronomy, like chemistry and biology, is really all about physics when you get down to it. For it's the laws of physics that govern the motion of the stars and planets and how light from distant galaxies reaches our eye. But perhaps the best way to introduce kids to science is through geology. Any kid who has stepped outdoors and visited a park can begin studying geology and natural sciences right away. My 9-year-old has been attending an outdoor science class along with about 10 other homeschoolers. The class is offered by a local park ranger where they not only learn about rocks and geology, but also about earthquakes, plants, volcanoes, and other natural sciences. There, they learn that the natural sciences also rely on physics to explain many natural phenomena such as climate change, erosion, and volcanic eruptions. So back to the question, where should we start when teaching science to our kids? Should we start with physics, given its relation to all the other sciences? My answer is yes. I do think physics is a great place to start. That's why I got this book, Newtonian Physics for Babies, for my youngest child when he was just 3 years old. Now, while these books are ostensibly written for children, I found that they can also help grown-ups understand and explain difficult concepts to kids. Now that said, I don't think younger kids should necessarily focus only on physics. Instead, I think younger children would benefit from a more ad hoc approach to studying science, where they get introduced to concepts from all the different sciences whenever the opportunity comes up. Young children are naturally curious about the world, and we can use everyday situations such as hiking outdoors, visiting an aquarium, or looking at the stars as opportunities to explain concepts in science. But what about older kids? I think as kids get older, say around 12 or 13 years old, that they should start studying physics with a more systematic and structured approach, especially if they have already started learning algebra. Because of its relation to all the other sciences, studying physics first, followed by chemistry and then biology, will provide a solid foundation, especially if your child plans on becoming a science or engineering major in college. To prepare for AP exams and college, teenage physics students should get as much practice as possible using math to solve physics problems. Learning science is more important than ever in the digital age. But before you can trust the science or believe in science, you must first understand it. And I hope this video helps you map out the right science curriculum for your child. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.